Hey, this is Chris Scott, founder of Fit Recovery. Today we're going to talk about a sample morning routine that I've perfected over the years since I quit drinking. And this routine has also been used by some of my coaching clients with really good success. I don't want you to think of it as something you have to do or another obligation, another duty that you now have to add to your mornings if you want to do this. Just think of it as a blueprint. You can take something from it. Maybe it'll help you optimize your mornings. Most people who have been through alcohol addiction know that it can be really tough to just get through your day when you quit drinking. So the goal here is to kind of rethink your morning routine and to establish one if you don't have one. Because for me, when I finally detoxed from alcohol, I had to redesign my entire day, and that obviously starts with the morning. So the first question is, why have a morning routine in the first place? And I have a few answers for that. I think it's really important to control your morning instead of reacting to the chaos that can be thrown at you every day when you wake up. So for me, I recall vividly before I quit drinking, I used to roll out of bed way too late, and I would have hit snooze several times because I just wasn't ready to get up because I had been drinking the night before, trying to, at the end of it, at the end of my addiction, I was just trying to ease my withdrawal symptoms. But I would feel horrible after getting maybe 4 hours of sleep, and I was dehydrated, and I would run to work, run to my car, speed to work, and be 10 minutes late and just have a horrible start to the day, just being reacting to things rather than taking control of my morning. The second thing, I think it's important to start living consciously as soon as you quit drinking. It can be a really empowering thing to realize that you are in control of how your day goes. That's not obvious for someone like me, who for a long time I was simply reacting to my withdrawal symptoms, or in the beginning of my alcohol addiction, reacting to those strange and overwhelming desires to drink towards the end of my night that always made me feel pretty bad the next morning. So if you start living consciously, you start making choices that make the rest of your day better. That's a good thing. So it's important also to focus on things that are you could kind of think of as being you time, things that you'd want to get done. Even if you have a long job, long hours, you can make time to do things that you've wanted to do. You can set aside an hour before work. It's really amazing how much time you free up if you are proactive about it when you quit drinking, because you're no longer dealing with the need to put alcohol in your system, and you're no longer dealing with the inevitable aftermath of that. And so, of course, this is kind of obvious, but you're setting the tone for the rest of your day when you start whatever you do in the morning is going to set the tone for the rest of your day. So if you start your day feeling disorganized or out of sorts, then you're going to have a day in which you might feel like you're lagging or you're out of control. You might be more prone to anxiety or depression. So if you do the opposite and you get some things out of the way that feel like accomplishments, then you will be more likely to have a good day. And good days accumulate, and your whole sense of life can change over time. So I think it's important to re-envision your mornings. Mental images in our heads are really important. This is something I learned when studying NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. So my mental image of the mornings before I quit drinking and actually well into early recovery was dreary, black and white, and bleak. And even on a beautiful day, I found it hard to enjoy it. I just didn't think that anything in life would give me pleasure except for alcohol. And eventually, over time, as I repaired my brain body system with supplementation, got back into exercise, started eating right, took some herbs that helped me sleep, the combination of doing all of that, which is all of those things are pretty much what I talk about on my site, Fit Recovery. But I now have a mental image of the morning that looks a lot more like what this picture is, a kind of beautiful, even if it's not a beautiful day like this picture, it's obviously idealized. But I just wanted to show something that this is now what I think of when I think of any given morning. It's going to be a bright day because I'm in control now, even if it's not actually sunny outside. And that's the polar opposite of how I envisioned or thought of what my mental image or concept of the morning was before I went through this transformation. So we'll get into the routine now. So this is something I still do to this day. As soon as I wake up, I'm in bed, I think of three things that I'm grateful for. Now, for a long time, I thought of gratitude as a kind of BS thing that people talked about in AA meetings or at church or whatever. But it kind of makes a lot of sense that in order to feel better about yourself and your situation, you have to put things into perspective. And I realized this. I had watched um, a documentary about the Holocaust the night before, and I woke up and I wasn't feeling good, and I didn't know why. And it's because I'd watched something depressing the night before. But then I was able to turn that into something positive by realizing, like, the people that I had been watching in that documentary the night before um, didn't have all of the things that I was about to take for granted today. So you can be grateful about having arms and legs that aren't in chains. You can be grateful for someone who you talked to yesterday who made you feel good about yourself, or a friend or a family member. Maybe your fitness level is improving because you recently quit drinking and you got back into exercise. Maybe you can be grateful for something natural beauty, something outside. Maybe it's a sunny day. But just think of three random things. It doesn't matter what they are, but this will help you put things into perspective so that you don't take things for granted and feel um, kind of bland and bleak, like so many people do after they quit drinking. So the next thing I think about after that little exercise in gratitude is just one thing that I will do today. And I've been doing this for quite some time. And obviously, it doesn't mean I'm only going to do one thing today, but I try to envision something that I'm going to accomplish so that I have a purpose today. And it could be as simple as calling a friend back. It could be as complex. Actually, this morning, my task that I was going to do was to put out this video presentation. I had been putting it off for a day or two because I got caught up with other things. But when you can put forth the task that you're going to do and put it in the front of your mind, you now have a purpose. You're just a little bit more likely to get out of bed, especially if you're not particularly fond of getting out of bed. I've always had that problem to some extent. But thinking of three things I'm grateful for and one thing I'll get done has helped me. Something else that can help also is to take a few deep breaths as soon as you wake up. I'm not an expert in meditation or the chakras or anything like that, but from my limited research on that subject, I've realized that I didn't know how to breathe before I studied this. And I would have shallow breaths sometimes without realizing it. And that can lead to a state of unnecessary anxiety that you might not even be aware of. You just might feel mildly uncomfortable or not at ease. And so when you take a deep breath, try to hold it down in your stomach as if there are knots that you're trying to untie with that air. Hold it there for a few seconds and then release. And I think what's going on is that you're helping to oxygenate your brain and the rest of your body, and you are helping yourself to wake up, but you're also helping yourself to feel more clear-minded. So the next thing I do after I wake up is I start my coffee or tea brewing, and I kind of go through phases with making coffee, or I'm a big fan of yerba mate. Sometimes I'll do matcha, but I recently got a French press, and I boil some water and pour the water over the coffee or tea. It takes about 10 minutes to brew, and so I try to get 10 minutes of meditation during that time. So I'll go in the other room, sit in a comfortable chair. And recently I've been using an app called Headspace that I signed up for. I think it's $7 a month or something like that. But I've also had good success using random YouTube channels. There's some really good meditation channels there. You can find nature sounds. You can find binaural beats. The binaural beats make some kind of outlandish claims about releasing dopamine or serotonin, but they do seem to do something. They help me. They have helped me relax in the past. And I also have a mantra, transcendental meditation, which is something I'm not an expert in. Recommends that you use a mantra and you repeat it over and over. I think that's what transcendental meditation is. And over time, that mantra becomes something of an anchor for that feeling of inner peace and relaxation. So you can use some combination of these strategies. Maybe you just want to sit and think about trying to bring yourself into the present moment, but that 10 minutes will fly by and it's not wasted. Meditation has been shown to help you rewire your brain after addiction. It calms down your limbic system, and it's just an all-around good way to start your morning, because you can wake up with racing thoughts. Just because you're asleep, that doesn't mean that you're properly relaxing, especially right after you quit drinking. If you're in early recovery, you probably still have a bit of a deficiency in calming neurochemicals like GABA and in pleasure chemicals like endorphins and dopamine. It's really good to try to rewire your brain proactively, and meditation can be a good part of that. So after I'm done meditating, I enjoy my coffee or my tea. After that, I like to get in a really short workout. And I'm talking like maybe 20 minutes max here. I don't like to go to the gym and lift heavy weights on an empty stomach, but I also don't like to eat a huge breakfast and work out right afterwards. But I find that it's very useful to get some kind of sweat in the morning to additionally help my brain oxygenate and get my heart rate up. When you do that, your heart rate's probably going to be lower for the rest of the day. And you also release chemicals that reduce stress chemicals. You release feel-good brain chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, endorphins. And one thing that kind of surprised me when I really got back into exercise during early recovery was that food tasted better for the rest of the day when I worked out in the morning. And I think this is because when you really get your system revved up in the morning, your metabolism increases, and that healthy meal that you might have thought was boring before suddenly looks delicious. For whatever reason, exercise and eating right tends to go hand in hand. I've never craved Twinkies after I've gotten a good workout in. Anyway, I'd say a short workout in the morning is good. You can go for a brief jog. Sometimes I'll ride my bike to a field that's about half a mile away, do 5 sprints, maybe 40-yard dashes or something like that, and then ride my bike back. That takes about 20 minutes, and it's not too intense. So there's no need to think of a workout as something that necessarily takes an hour or more. I found that brief workouts, 2 brief workouts in a day, one in the morning and one in the evening, is probably better than one long workout, and it'll give you the additional benefit of keeping your metabolism high throughout the day and the night, which, if weight loss is one of your goals, if losing fat is one of your goals, can be very helpful. So, you could do weights in the morning. My personal preferences are more for cardio in the morning because I'm really just trying to oxygenate my brain. So after this brief workout, I like to have a pretty big breakfast. And my philosophy on breakfast has changed several times since I quit drinking years ago. But there are a few things that remain the same. And I no longer turn on the TV and watch the news. I find all those breaking news alerts that aren't really breaking stress me out. I avoid social media. I don't care, nor do I want to start caring about what people are doing all the time. And so if I'm alone, though, I will listen to some of my favorite podcasts. The Joe Rogan Experience is one of my favorite podcasts. He talks about everything from politics to nature to hunting to nutrition. He just has really interesting people on. I do like to stimulate my mind in the morning, but I'm not trying to stimulate it with unnecessary BS. So, you can pick. There are so many podcasts out there, and I do think that if you pick a good one that works for you, that discusses things you're interested in, maybe things that you want to learn about. If you have long-term goals and you want to, let's say, build a business in something, you can probably find a podcast that relates to that subject matter. So back to the content of your breakfast. I tend to eat in a somewhat paleo manner. I eat a lot of protein and good fat. I don't eat a lot of flour-based products. I think that in general, it's best to make sure that you have good fats and protein, because these are really the building blocks of brain repair after you quit drinking. So, The worst possible breakfast, unfortunately, since we all probably grew up eating something like this, but the worst possible breakfast would be frosted flakes with skim milk and a glass of orange juice. I don't eat any of those things anymore, and I feel way better because I don't. So a typical breakfast for me might be um, eggs, scrambled eggs, and potatoes, and vegetables, maybe kale or collard greens, something like that, and a side of frozen blueberries that I heat up in the microwave with some stevia or monk fruit sweetener. You can really make a pretty gourmet meal without spending too much money if you know how to shop. So another thing that I've done intermittently is to make a superfood smoothie, kale and blueberries, avocado. You can put a banana in there. Everyone's different in what their preferences are, but that's a really good way to get micronutrients in the morning that will help you to feel better for the rest of your day. Supplementation has been an important part of my mornings since I quit drinking. And now I don't take nearly as many supplements as I did when I first discovered brain and body repair for quitting drinking. These days I stick to, I take a supplement called Triangle of Health that covers all of my bases. But I do take some additional adaptogens. And so what kind of supplements you take will depend on when you quit drinking and how recent it's been, whether you're trying to follow some kind of supplementation plan. But some supplements are best taken first thing upon waking up. There are certain amino acids that should technically be taken on an empty stomach, but there are some people who tend to get an upset stomach if they take anything on an empty stomach. So, if that's the case for you, you're still going to absorb them. I've gone back and forth between taking things on an empty stomach or not. But with breakfast, I usually take 3 adaptogens that I feel enhance the quality of my day. I feel as if they help my energy levels. They help me feel more clear-minded. They tend to clear up brain fog. And so those 3 are reishi mushroom, um, rhodiola rosea, and ashwagandha. So basically what an adaptogen is a natural herb or compound that helps to balance the organs that regulate stress in your body. So a lot of times they help to balance your thyroid or your adrenals. They can also have an ameliorating effect on stress in your mind. So they might balance brain chemicals and help to increase feel-good chemicals, but they can have different effects on different people depending on what their problems are. So someone with high anxiety might take reishi mushroom and feel more balanced out. Someone who is maybe a bit anhedonic, or in other words, they don't feel pleasure the way they should, they're feeling low motivation, they might take the same thing, reishi mushroom, and find that they just feel better and they feel more motivated. So these compounds can affect people differently, but I found them to be very gentle, and they've even helped me balance out almost regardless of what discomfort I was feeling. Here's a snapshot of my morning routine from early recovery. For the first few months after I had quit drinking, I was getting up pretty early. In full disclosure, I no longer get up at 6:15 a.m. regularly, but I do find that my most productive time of day is sometime in mid-morning. So I don't want to miss that. So I typically do try to get up so that I can enjoy that time of day and start getting that task done that I've set out for myself if it's not a work day. And if it is, then I'm doing work trying to get that done. But anyway, so I would get up at 6:15 and think of the 3 things that I'm grateful for, and the one thing that I was going to get done today that I could be proud of later, and brush my teeth, take my supplements, whatever. By 6:20, I'd have the coffee brewing or the tea. At one point I did switch to yerba mate tea, and I'd still kind of go back and forth. Get 10 minutes of meditation in. It just flies by. And I could do I probably will eventually do a presentation on meditation. But for here, I just want to focus on the morning routine and how that fits in. But that will fly by. You'll get better and better at it as time goes on. You'll get more out of it as time goes on. No one's good at meditating when they start. So after that, get a short workout in, just something to oxygenate the brain, get the feel-good chemicals flowing because they have not been flowing, especially if you've been going through early recovery and suffering through protracted withdrawal symptoms. Exercise and supplementation are your best friends. And then by 7 a.m., I would take a shower, make myself a really good breakfast. And I didn't know about adaptogens when I quit drinking, but over time I discovered those compounds I talked about, reishi mushroom, rhodiola, and ashwagandha. To this day, I still take those at breakfast. And I also take a supplement called Triangle of Health in the morning that typically I take before breakfast. But I was taking different supplements right after I quit drinking to keep the alcohol cravings at bay. By 7:45, I'd be ready to start my day. So, I'd be heading out to go to work, train clients, whatever, and I already would have gotten a little workout in. I'd be feeling pretty good. I'd be feeling fresh from my shower. I would have meditated, had some time to myself while I sip my coffee. And the difference between that and when I was rolling out of bed with withdrawal symptoms, already late to work, having negative thought patterns in my mind is like night and day. So I highly recommend, if not doing this exact routine, just thinking of it as a blueprint, trying to take something out of it that you might incorporate into your day, especially if you have recently quit drinking. So the last topic that I want to discuss is, what if you're not a morning person? I would venture to say that no one who's recently quit drinking is a morning person. Insomnia is a huge problem for almost everyone who's quit drinking recently. I'd say it takes at least a month to get your normal sleep patterns back. For some people it takes a year, and for people who never supplement or exercise and who have a horrible diet and really bad lifestyle choices, they might never be able to sleep normally. And those people often end up getting hooked on sleeping pills and other things, or just turning back to alcohol. So this is a valid question. Something I've found is that when I am treating my body correctly and I'm repairing my system with intelligent supplementation, over time, I could set a new wake-up time. I felt better by default, and the exercise would make me expend some energy during the day so that I'd sleep better at night. The meditation would calm my brain down, and so I could change my wake-up time to 5 a.m. if I wanted, and within the following few days, I would start getting sleepy at maybe 9 p.m. instead of 10 p.m. So, if you set a radically new wake-up time, if you decide all of a sudden you're going to wake up at 3 in the morning, then yeah, you're going to have a day or maybe 3 or 4 where you don't fall asleep soon enough and you're really tired the next day. But it's not that dissimilar from, say, going on a trip to Europe where they're 6 to 8 hours ahead of the time in the U.S., and having to adjust. So if you do force yourself to adjust, you will find yourself, if you are making healthy lifestyle choices, getting just tired earlier in the evening. And typically I like to read a book before bed. So if I'm getting up at 6 in the morning or 6:15, I'm typically in bed with a good book by 9:30 p.m. So that gives me a half an hour or so to read, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour if I want. Reading is a great form of mind alteration. It also makes your eyes tired, so it's easier to go to sleep. But that would usually be my sleeping pill. And of course, sometimes I did take supplements. Sleep Support is a fantastic supplement for sleep that I talk about on my website. So I think that's about it. Thanks for listening. And if you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up, and there will be more to come.